Hello, everybody, and welcome to Good Stuff. My name is Kevin Bille, and I'm really excited today to bring on our guest, Dan Owolabi. Dan, it's great to have you.
How's it going, man?
Well, Dan, I'm fortunate enough to have you a part of my life, and for us to stay in touch. It started a while ago. We recruited you a little out of high school, but then I coached against you. And I find it really ironic, being a Walsh guy, that I would have a Malone guy on here. That's kind of against
it's
my.
Weird. It's hard right now. I'm struggling too.
I can feel it through the screen, but
if I just walk off the set, you know why it is.
Well, I totally respect it. But hey, Dan, for the people that don't know you as well as I do, and a lot of the local people around here, of course, everybody knows you. But can you kind of bring light to who you are and your path up to this point, and what you're currently doing, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So just like you said, I played basketball for Malone, 4 great years, Hal Smith, just a really inspiring mentor in a lot of ways. And met my college sweetheart. She became my wife. She was from the Holmes County area. And so we got married, moved down there, school teacher for a while at Garraway High School. Then I was a pastor for about 10 years, about a decade. And that was an amazing experience. God really kind of showed me a lot through that. Had the chance to launch a church in my hometown of Worcester, Ohio, and got to watch that grow from 10 people to, at its peak, was somewhere in the 600s. That was fun. 4 years. That was a good season. But then I felt God calling me to a new challenge, and so at the end of 2018, I helped launch a international nonprofit called Branches Worldwide. And what we do is we identify and we influence Christian business leaders around the world and help them use their business as a mission to reach their community. I also have my own business called Owolabi Leadership, where I do coaching, consulting, keynote speaking, and I just wrote a book that's going to release in, I don't know, like 3 weeks or something. So that's really exciting.
Right. Yeah, really exciting.
Yeah, you got a lot going on.
Yeah, I look forward to talking more about that book and just getting to know you, Dan, over time. I mean, excuse me. You are extremely authentic, and I always respect that about you, and quite the leader. Watching your journey, especially just being tied into the whole New Point thing, has been inspiring to me. I'd like to know, though, that the Branches Worldwide, for people that don't know about that, can we give them a little bit a scope into that? I mean, did you sign a 30-year contract? Is this like a multi deal for athletes, or how did that go? And
yeah.
just I personally know about it. We were at the dinner, which was awesome, but let people know a little bit more about that. I think it's important.
Yeah, so Branches Worldwide, basically we have a mission to identify 30 leaders in 30 different countries and then work with them for 30 years. So that's 30 total leaders for 30 years. That's our first big initiative. That's where the 30-year piece comes from. And for us, I think what we believe, and I think a lot of people recognize this, that business owners have a huge impact in the sort of the growth and the life of a community. Especially with COVID-19 happening and businesses being shut down, people can really feel how businesses provide a service to a community. And so one thing that we're realizing is that if we're able to identify and impact Christian business leaders and help them use their business to spread the gospel, to create economic prosperity, to create spiritual transformation within a community, suddenly a community anywhere around the world grows much faster because they're able to make some strategic investments in the community and help people grow. And so that's what we're after. We're looking to do missions in a different way than it's been done before.
Yeah, that's awesome. I truly admire that. Now, with that experience and just in general, and of course, I definitely see you as a leader, but you are, every day, and with this new experience, you're around a lot of leaders, and I think they hold different roles, whether that be leaders of a home, whether that be leaders of teams, business leaders of small businesses to larger businesses. What are you seeing right now are some key strengths or components that these leaders have that maybe some others don't right now?
Sure. Yeah. I think in a situation like COVID-19, you really start to see the sort of the reality of leadership. People who are authentic, that they know themselves well, they trust themselves, they lead themselves well. When situations like this come, they have nothing to hide, they have nothing to prove, they've got nothing to lose. And so they only focus on serving people. You can start to see that come out in leaders, the way they post, the way they talk, the way they carry themselves. On the other side, though, I think it's natural for leaders to battle insecurity,
Mm.
and a lot of leaders do. And so when something like this happens, what you see is insecure reactions from people, lots of fear, lots of anxiety. And for those leaders, it's really important to pay attention to those feelings, because that's not what you need as a leader. I think as a leader, you need to be contagiously calm. And that only comes from a real sense of authenticity. Like, I know who I am, I know what I'm about, I know what we're trying to do. It might not always work out perfectly, but I know where I'm headed. So the most successful leaders right now in COVID-19 are the ones that are calm because they're authentic.
Yeah, that's great. And I think I know where that source comes for me, and I really know where it comes, from for you. So where does it come from for a lot of these people? Or if people don't have that right now, what are you suggesting? How are they able to get that as part of their lives? Because somebody might be listening and thinking, I'm a mess right now, or I do feel that way. I can sympathize. What do I do?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, here's the thing. I'm a Christian, and so I come at this from a faith perspective. And the easy answer, the easy button, is to say trust Jesus. And
Mhm.
there's a whole host of challenging things that'll happen in your life because of it. But you'll have the peace of Christ, which passes all understanding, and it helps you get through all kinds of tough stuff.
Amen.
So that's the one side. But if you're not yet at the place where you're ready to make Jesus the leader of your life and the forgiver of your sins, if that's not where you are, I totally get it. um, you know, I would say it's super important for you to be introspective and to have a bigger picture perspective. And what I mean by that is oftentimes when you're feeling anxiety, you're focused on the problem in front of you. And you're thinking, if this happens, then I'm screwed. Like, it's all over. I'm done. But you can get a sense of peace and calm if you start to think about your life after the crisis. If you start to think about the resilience that might come from the experience. If you start to think about the fact that you could maybe rebuild, you can do this again, you've got time. You could lose everything and you can keep on going. If you're able to sort of put yourself in that mental space, it becomes much easier to deal with the uncertainty of today, knowing that you can, if it all goes bad, you can still pick it up and start again.
Right. Yeah, and I think you touched on a word there that resonates so much with me personally, and as a parent, I try to force it on my kids, but that resiliency, I think that is so key from leaders. The best
Yeah.
leaders I see have the ability just to be resilient, to persevere and keep going. And this would be a good transition right now, Dan, into some of the topics that you speak about. We should have led with this. We got to inject this somewhere, Dan. I've heard this a dozen times because that's about, I hear you speak all the time. How do people remember that last name? You got to give them the hotel story. That's a classic, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we should go with that right off the bat. Owolabi, huh?
I, I tell you, I wish we all had a name like Billy. I mean, if everybody was Billy, man, we wouldn't have these problems. But so yeah, for me, my name gets butchered all the time. It has been for a long time. And you get it, it's a tough name. So what we did was we came up with a quick story. Basically, it's like this. So let's say that you're at a hotel and you're on the third floor, and you get out of your room and you want to get some ice. And so the ice is on the second floor. So you go into the elevator and you just press a button, not thinking, and the elevator goes down. And all of a sudden you realize that you missed the second floor and it's going to the first floor. And you're like, oh man. And so then the door opens and you walk out and you're like, oh, a lobby.
Boom. I love it. I love it. That's great.
Yeah.
But hey, one thing you touched on earlier, and I know this is a topic you speak on, and I talked to somebody about this on here actually, servant leadership, and you put it as how to lead people when you can't control people. I know in my life, Dan, as much as I thought I was serving people before in my role or title, that title was gone after about 90 seconds. And then I realized, am I really acting out on that? And for me, I've made a shift, at least in my life, to put other people before me. I think I tried to do that a little bit, but I don't know if it was at the forefront, if you will. So talk to us a little bit about that. And I think servant leadership is a game changer. I mean, you obviously do that really well. We got a common friend like a Bruce Hampshire, the people like that when they do that, everything changes, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. It's funny. Yeah, I think leaders, they have all kinds of tools at their disposal. And I think there are appropriate moments to use tools in regards to force and position and power and that kind of stuff to get things done. The best leaders realize that servant leadership is their number one go-to tool, that they never have control over people, that people are free agents all the time. Their kids can leave, employees can quit, their spouse can walk away. I mean, you never really have control over people. And so the illusion that you can tell people what to do and force them to do things, even if they don't want to do it, that's not true. So being able to focus on servant leadership And learning how to lead people in the reality of the fact that you can't control people, that's freeing. That's freeing for them. It's freeing for you. You start to lead through influence as opposed to leading through power and authority. And those things are just, like you said, those things are game changers.
Right. And I think another one too, as you expose all my weaknesses here. When I was younger, and I think this is a common thing out of people that are highly driven. You just become so focused on results. I need the bottom line in my business. I need wins for this team. We need to execute this at home, whatever it may be. And you talk a little bit about leadership accountability and how to obtain those great results through, and what I'm getting at is great relationships. Why are relationships so important as a leader?
You know, I like that you're saying that because I'm the same way. I think it's hard to be successful in life, especially early on, if you're not driven, to push yourself. But then at the same time, as you transition into becoming a leader, you can't really be driven to push people the same way you push yourself. It's just different. And so one of the things that we say is relationships are the sort of the lubricant to create great accountability. And the reason is because people are very interested in being accountable to you and to me if they know that we have their best interest at heart. If they know that we care about them and their outcome in their life and we want what's best for them, and that's why we're holding them accountable, like, hey, you could be better than that. You have a brighter future than what you're doing. I know that you can do more than what you've been doing before. If we say those things to people and we have the relationship to back it up, people really want to be accountable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think the thing that I realized through that, Dan, is that is authentic, right? People can see right through that when you're trying to force that, or if you truly mean it. And when you're able, when you're able to do that, I just think it makes a big difference in people's lives, and also, once again, those results when you're with them. I love one that you talk about too: self leadership. How to lead well, because somebody might say, "Man, I don't feel like it." Like, I don't know about you, but like sometimes I wake up, I'm like, can I have a day off? So how do I lead when I don't feel like it? The people that are out there, if that's part of that insecurity, or if that's part of those things that they're feeling right now, like, man, like for me, 2 weeks into this, I got this, I'm using this as an opportunity. I'm making the most of it. Go to my wife's, her grandma. We saw her through the window at the nursing home, and I just lost it. It's like, man, this is tough. So
Yeah,
how do you
yeah.
lead when those things are happening?
That's good. No, that's real, man. By the way, I do appreciate you doing this. This is a great thing that you started, and just the opportunity to have these conversations. I love it. I
Yeah,
love
it's
it. So
great. Yeah, I agree. Thank
kudos
you.
to you. I think if you're going to talk about leading yourself, it really comes down to keeping the promises that you make to yourself. Because I think ultimately people need to know that you lead yourself first before you try to lead anybody else. And so that means being consistent enough to say, you know what, if I told myself I'm going to wake up at 6, I'm going to wake up at 6 only because I made a promise to myself and I keep my promises. Keeping promises to yourself suddenly over time starts to build character. And that's the character that you present to other people and allow them to buy into your leadership so that you can lead them. But if you
Love
don't lead yourself and you try to lead others first, man, they're like, you're asking me to do this and you can't even.
Yeah, and I think
So
people get conflicted with that. What I guess I'm hearing from you and a lot of others, it's the discipline, right? You got to have the discipline to do that. And I think where people get conflicted is, hey, I want to serve, but you got to back that up, because you can't take care of other people unless you take care of yourself first, right?
that's right. That's right. And discipline is hard, man. I mean, you were part of an amazing group a while back, and I really admire you for that, where a group of guys got together and really sort of disciplined themselves to read and to grow and
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. It's hard to learn discipline unless you're in a group of people who are more disciplined than you, right?
Yeah.
Because then you sort of raise up to that level. That's how you do it. Doing it on your own is possible, but man, it's stinking hard. Doing it as
Yeah.
part of a group, that's a great way to grow.
Yeah, I think it's so important, and of course, Chad, who's become a great friend for me, and just having him as an accountability partner, just having people in your life, and I know you and I go out at times, and just being able to be vulnerable and transparent, in these conversations. I would highly recommend to people, if they're not doing that now, to do that, especially in times like this. It's important. One thing in leadership, Dan, that I see some people that are a little weary of, it's conflict. Now, me, I love it. I embrace it to a fault sometimes, but you talk about how to uncover and address hidden tension on your teams. I think that would be important to speak to, because that's an uncomfortable area for some people, and then once again, for other people, they may love it and embrace it, but to a fault. So where does that balance lie? Because you need to do it as a leader, right?
Right, right, right. Yeah, you're like me. I mean, I love candor. Like just tell me the truth, man. Let's just get it up front, which is really good for us. But for people who are a little bit more tender, that's just
Yes, not good.
that sucks. Yeah. I think it's this. I think as a leader, you need to find a way to get all the information that you need to make a decision. You need to find a way to get it all on the table. The worst thing for a leader is to push so hard that people are intimidated and they hold back. They don't tell you the truth. They don't tell you that they think the project's not going to work. They don't, tell you anything, and they watch you like sort of lead the company off a cliff because they're too afraid to say something out loud because you're just a little bit too confrontational. The best leaders have that sort of that relationship with people so that they're able to get all the information from people on the table so that there's not the sort of the meeting after the meeting, after you have a meeting with them, then they turn around to their coworker in the hallway and they're like, yeah, I think that's a stupid idea.
Yeah, right.
They're able to look you in the eye and tell you it's a stupid idea because you have that relationship. And now you know what they think. You're not going to penalize them for it, but you're able to have that conversation. So we talk a lot about the last 10%. Whenever you're in a conversation with someone, oftentimes they'll tell you the full 90, but then there's like 10% that they're just afraid to say because it could hurt your feelings. They're not 100% sure about it. They're not confident in it. They won't say it. And unless you ask for that and have an underlying relationship where they can say it without feeling like they're going to get in trouble, you don't get that 10%. So being able to get that last 10% gets all the information on the table and really helps your leadership.
And as small as that 10% may be, that's probably the elephant in the room ultimately, right? And other people can feel that. Yeah. And man, I think about when I was 25 years old and a head coach, I was so honest and transparent with those guys. I mean, and they'd leave the office and they went to the locker room and talked, or it just wasn't working. And I thought, man, I'm giving them, well, what more do they want out of me? I'm being completely honest, but it goes back to what you said. There wasn't a foundation for the relationships. There was a foundation driven by results. And so I think you can confront that and think you're being honest and helping them, but in essence, you're probably hurting the situation.
Right. Relationships are everything, and everybody responds differently. But most people will respond to the fact that you genuinely care for them.
Yeah,
And
right.
after that, you can say all kinds of things if they trust that you care about them.
Right. Well, hey, one thing that I know, comes up in our conversations a lot, I think that we're both similar in, is we just like to grow. We like to get better. We haven't arrived yet. We never will, right? But we're going to keep trying. Give our audience, I love asking almost everybody this question. What are some things that you do personally to grow?
Yeah. Great question. So I have a couple clear things that I do. Exercise is an important part for me. I'm a member of a local CrossFit gym, so that's big. I love to surround myself with people who are physically challenging themselves. There for a while, I was waking up at 4 a.m. and running with a friend. That was a lot of fun. It's challenging, but because it was challenging, and I kind of wanted to do it. I read a ton. Running and reading, exercise and reading, those are two things those are my go-to. So, and then, of course, the things that I do to grow my spiritual life, I read the Bible on a daily basis. And I listen to quite a bit of worship music, more now that I'm not a pastor, because when you're a pastor, you just get up to your eyeballs in it and you don't want to listen to it anymore. But I listen to that quite a bit now.
Now, if I was being honest with myself and you were, let's shift back to when we're 18 years old. We probably weren't worried much about growing then. So if you could go back to 18-year-old Dan Owolabi, what would you tell him now that that and that you'd want him to listen to?
Gosh, you know what? I would tell him I'll tell him to read more books.
Yeah.
That's what I'll tell him to do. I'll tell him to read more books, like expand your mind, because that would be the key that leads you down a lot of different paths. You can mature pretty stinking quickly if you read a lot of the right books.
Yeah, so good. Well, hey, one of those right books is going to be yours, right? Let's talk a little bit about this book. I'm so excited and happy for you. Selfishly, I wish we could have maybe published it. Maybe we have some in the future here for you. But yeah, just talk about your book here, Authentic Leadership, and what made you write this?
Yeah, I love to read, and so after a while, you read enough books, you're like, maybe I should just try to write one. Felt called to do it, felt like it was the right time to do it, and so it's called Authentic Leadership: How to Lead with Nothing to Hide, Nothing to Prove, and Nothing to Lose. And honestly, it has a lot to do with my own story, and then stories that I've heard from other leaders about battling insecurity.
Mm.
Early on in my leadership, even as a player, I just did a lot of posturing. I thought leadership was all about sort of acting like you're the biggest dude in the room and always having the right answers, and any sort of like weakness, any sort of, wrong answer looked like weakness. It's not really the case. But I didn't know how to be authentic and sort of win people's hearts through just genuine authenticity. And so I had some success in leadership over the years in some unlikely situations, like only Black dude at this church that I was pastoring at in Walnut Creek,
Right.
and just was able to really get some things done. And I was really proud of what we did, what God did through us. So I learned some lessons there. Launching the church, in my hometown and watching that grow, I learned a lot about authenticity. Leading volunteers who I couldn't fire, I didn't pay, and I needed their help. Like learning how to lead in that situation, really difficult.
Yeah.
And then launching branches worldwide. It's a global ministry, and learning to influence people from different cultures, right? All that stuff really comes into this book. My mom and dad, they were both deaf, couldn't hear, so I'm fluent in sign language. And watching my mom and dad lead, my mom is a professor at the University of Louisville. My dad was a professor at Kent State in Akron. Both of them, watching them lead and grow, I learned a lot of lessons from that. And so essentially it's a book about, how to lead authentically without really changing who you are in the core, but yet still connecting with other people.
Yeah, that's good stuff for sure. I'd just be interested to know, did you discover anything along the way when you were writing this book that maybe you didn't know before, or just something that stuck out to you?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I realize that writing a book is hard. It's much harder than you'd think. It takes more time than you think just to get it all right. Um, but I did learn this. I learned that there are different ways to lead people, and I think oftentimes we get stuck in a certain philosophy and how things work. But really, there isn't a set way that it works. Authentic leadership is about finding out who you are and who the other person is, and then trying to sort of develop an authentic bridge between the two. It's not one size fits all, but it's something unique to you and unique to them, and it's developing that unique connection with as many people as you can.
Man, that's so powerful, Dan, because I think of the sports world. I was talking to somebody the other day, and it's like, college football, for those that know, you've got Nick Saban, who's the elite, right? And the old school and disciplinarian, and it just really no fun, it seems like. And then you've got a Dabo Sweeney now that's come in that really fits this generation, and just his faith and just so happy and positive. And yet two totally different people, but yet they have reached the pinnacle, both of them, in what they're doing, right?
Right, right, right. It's totally true. Totally true.
Yeah. And so what about the book? Do you have a favorite part, without giving everything? Was there something that when you were done, you just, man, I love this?
Yeah, yeah. So I was in a pretty crazy car accident when I was 17, and a lot of it stemmed from insecurity and just being stupid. But I look back on it now, and I'm like, God, how did I not die? Like everything was pointing in the direction of me, just not making it. And so that experience, just looking back on it now, is just phenomenal. And so that's a big part of, I think it's like the second chapter of the book, but
Okay.
just talks about how I dealt with insecurity. That's one of my favorite parts.
That's really cool. And like you said, you can't write a book about authentic leadership if you're not authentic yourself. So I respect that out of you. Now I know you're a post guy and you can't shoot the three, but we do a rapid fire finish here called 3-pointers. So we're going to reverse roles a little bit, and I'll let you step outside here, all right, and knock down a couple shots. So if number one, if people could learn one thing from this talk, if you wanted them to take something and grab hold of it, what would it be?
Yeah. I think it's about serving people, being yourself and serving people. If you're able to stand on those two foundations, you'll be able to lead.
Good. Next one. Let's reverse roles. Again, you could come over here and you could ask the questions. What question did I not ask you today that I should have?
Yeah, I think the question is the role that my wife plays in all this. She's an unbelievable anchor. And I think our marriage is strong because we've been married for 13 years. Because early on, I was just completely honest with her about where I was in my life, where I was in my faith, and she was honest with me too. And so we walked into marriage without anything to hide, nothing to prove, and nothing to lose. So that was huge for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then, lastly, I call this good stuff. What's some good stuff that you can finish this off with? Something that might be applicable for this time, or just in general. Give us some good stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. By the way, I love that title. That's so good because I've heard you say it like 1,000 times. Like, dude, that's good stuff, man. So it's a good title. Here's what I would say. I would say we're all experiencing COVID-19, and it's just a challenging season for many people. I would say that it's so critical for us as leaders to come out of this season better than when we came into it. Meaning, if we haven't identified specific goals and targets and things that we want to improve on because we have ample time and lots of confusion, then we're doing ourselves a disservice. We should hit the ground running when everything is back to normal. We should be better than when we came into it. This isn't the time to press pause or to act like, because stuff isn't working, then we just have to sit, get better, keep moving, keep growing. That's what I
Yeah.
would say.
Yeah, for sure. Hit that reset button. That's great. Let's just talk here as we wrap up. Where can people find you? Let's focus first here. There's a couple ways. Let's go first with social media. Where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, so depends on what they're looking for. Branches Worldwide is an international nonprofit, like I said. We've got a Facebook page, Instagram page, LinkedIn. So just go to Branches Worldwide on Facebook. Owolabi Leadership, it's my own personal company. You can find that on Facebook. You can find that on Instagram. And then, I'm basically promoting both of those on my
Right.
personal page. That's Dan Owolabi. I've
Okay.
got a page. So you'll find stuff on that, but great
Great.
place
And
to
then
find.
and then the websites too. And I know like I get the Branches Worldwide. There's a newsletter. There's different things. So gears towards the websites a little bit and what they have to offer in terms of branches, and then of course yours personally, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So the website is branchesworldwide.org. Just an easy place to find a lot of good information about who we are and what we do, how to be a part of it. The second piece is owolabileadership.com. That is a lot of our current videos. We send out a weekly leadership video on a particular topic, and we're rolling out some new products here in the next probably 2 weeks. So those are all things that are really helpful.
Great, great. And then finally, this book, when it's coming out, where people can find it, all that with the book that it has to offer, please.
Yeah, it's May 22nd. It's the Friday before Memorial Day. So
Okay.
we're really excited. It's been about a year in the works. So super pumped. You can find it on Amazon. The easiest place is to go to owolabileadership.com, sign up for updates, and you'll get a clear update in your inbox letting you know how to buy it and when.
Great, great. Well, yeah, I'm really excited for you, Dan, and I'll be thinking about you and praying for you when that comes out, just in general. And obviously, I look forward to when this ends, when we can get together again, and you can hold me accountable to a couple of things.
Dude, I will, man. I will. If you need
Yeah,
someone to kick you in the butt,
yeah.
just give me a call. I'm
Yeah,
right there.
right. Well, hey, Dan, thanks so much. Once again, I think the world of you as a person and just everything that you're doing, and I just continue to encourage you to do it because you're having such a great impact on a wide variety of people, and so continued blessings with everything you're doing, and thanks for making the time to come on here today.
Hey, Kevin, I appreciate it. You're doing big things, man. I mean, I'm excited to watch this grow. And if there's anything I can do to help you and help this stuff, man, it's all good stuff. So just let me know.
Yeah, likewise. And as we always say towards the end here, find something that's applicable in this conversation to take away with you. There's a lot of good stuff in here from Dan that I know can make you better in certain areas of your life. And so I challenge you to do that. But until next time, good stuff.